Who are the best ADP values in each of the first 10 rounds? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBC Express on Friday, March 14th. I am Frank Samfeld, joined by Chris Towers, and we are taking a look at the top ADP values in each of the first 10 rounds according to Chris Towers. So let's start with the first round. It's hard to say that there's an ADP value, Chris, but who is one of your favorite first round picks?
I think it's Kyle Tucker, who is like 9th in ADP. He's the number 8 player on average, 8.7, tied with Corbin Carroll over the past 2 weeks in NFBC drafts. Our consensus rankings have him as the number 5 player. I have him as the number 5 player. I think the gains he made in terms of his plate discipline last season, if they're for real, could take him to another level in terms of his batting average, which is always very good. His runs scored could be great. We're talking about a guy who could hit 295, 30 homers, 30 steals. And that Cubs lineup, you talked about this a lot lately, Frank, but that Cubs lineup could be really good. So I think Kyle Tucker it's only a couple spots, but this early in the draft, I would take him ahead of Juan Soto. I would take him ahead of Gunnar Henderson. I would take him ahead of Ellie De La Cruz, and he's going behind all of those guys.
All right, let's move into the second round, and your favorite pick is a former teammate of Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, wish they were playing together. I'm sure they do as well. Yordan Alvarez, I think, has been one of the more undervalued early round players all along. I think it's because of a lack of stolen bases and some concerns about playing time. Obviously, he does tend to get hurt, but when he's on the field, I'm not sure outside of Aaron Judge that there's a better 4-category superstar in fantasy baseball. He's a better bet for batting average than Juan Soto. I think when he's healthy, he's a better bet for power than Juan Soto. Juan Soto gets the edge in counting stats because he's likelier to play 155 games, but on a per game basis, Yordan Alvarez and Juan Soto, not very different. Yordan Alvarez goes in the middle of the second round, sometimes towards the end.
All right, over to the third round. Are you cheating with this one, Chris?
I don't think so. Trea Turner's ADP is 24.7. That is technically outside of the first 2 rounds. And according to the consensus rankings, he is way undervalued. We have him as the number 17 overall player. That's ahead of guys like Jackson Chourio, Jarren Duran, Jazz Chisholm, Bryce Harper, all of whom are going ahead of him. And I think what it comes down to with Trea Turner is just there is some skepticism about the stolen base potential. He hasn't stolen, I think, 35 bases in 4 or 5 years. But last year, before that hamstring injury in May, he was on a 50 steal pace. I'm not saying Trea Turner is going to steal 50 bases. I am saying Trea Turner could steal 50 bases if he wanted to. And I think 40 stolen bases, if he stays healthy at the top of a very, very good Phillies lineup, could be within the realm of possibility.
On to the fourth round, Chris, and we finally get a pitcher.
Yeah, I love Corbin Burnes. I think he's super undervalued. Our consensus rankings have him as the number 30 overall player. He's 39.4 in ADP. He's going behind Garrett Crochet, who we like more than him. He might be going behind Logan Gilbert as well, who we like more than him. Corbin Burnes, it comes down to the cutter. In the second half of last season, we saw a tale of 2 months, right? August was a disaster. He went back in the lab, rediscovered the feel for his cutter, added more horizontal movement, and he looked like himself again. He was a 27% strikeout rate guy in September. If he can be that guy again with the safety of the innings that you're going to get from Corbin Burnes, I think he could be, really, number 1 pitcher is within the realm of possibility for Corbin Burnes.
On to the fifth round, Chris, and we get a hitter who really just needs to drink more milk. He has to avoid broken bones. That's it.
Yeah, I don't really have any injury concerns with Ozzie Albies. I probably have more performance concerns with Ozzie Albies than I do injuries, even though 2 of the last 3 seasons he has missed significant time. However, when he's healthy, there aren't a lot of guys who can give you 100 runs and 100 RBI. Ozzie Albies can do that. He can hit 20 plus home runs. He can steal 15 to 20 bases. He's been a second rounder in the past, and I've never liked it when Ozzie Albies is a second rounder. But when he's a 5th rounder, I'll take that every day, including in a draft we did earlier today.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll be back right after this.
Who's in? Who's out? Let the madness begin. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Selection Show on CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in FBT Express. We are taking a look at the best ADP values by round, and we are into the 6th round where, Chris, we find one of those util-only bats, Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, I wanted to say that Brent Rooker was my favorite pick in the 5th round. And then when I was actually looking at it, it turns out Kyle Schwarber's actually going off the board later than Brent Rooker. And I rank the 3 util-only bats after Shohei Ohtani, which is Brent Rooker, Kyle Schwarber, and Marcell Ozuna. I rank them basically back-to-back. So I'm just going to take whichever one goes last. And right now, that's Kyle Schwarber. So he's the best value among them.
On to the 7th round, a polarizing hitter this season, but one we know has lots of upside, Luis Robert.
Yeah, this one could be controversial. I like the value. I think you and Scott maybe don't love the value, but look, man, we are 1 year away from Luis Robert having 38 homers and 20 stolen bases. He has top 10 outfielder potential. He has top 15, top 20 overall player potential. Yes, he gets hurt. Yes, he's on a terrible team. Yes, he might be just the most unmotivated player in baseball, but I have to think the hope that he'll get traded can boost those numbers. Let's get him on a better team in the second half and really take off. But I think Luis Robert, if you're looking for upside in a roto league, especially Luis Robert in the 7th round, is a great value.
On to the 8th round, and we find a second baseman who I believe is tiered with Ozzie Albies, but he's going 3 rounds later.
Yeah, Marcus Semien, man, people are really giving up on him having upside, but this was a guy that has multiple top 5 overall finishes in the past 5 years. He's had 2 bad seasons in that stretch, but he bounced back from the last one. So while I do accept that the 35, 34-year-old Marcus Semien might just be old enough that the decline is irreversible. On the other hand, in a down year in 2024, he still scored 101 runs, and I expect that Rangers lineup to be better in 2025. So I have no problems with Marcus Semien as early as the 6th round. If he makes it to the 8th round, I'm thrilled.
On to the 9th round, we get another starting pitcher, one that could be starting on opening day for my New York Yankees.
I don't understand the disrespect for Max Fried. I get that there have been some serious sounding injuries over the past couple of years, especially I think it was a forearm injury within the last couple of years, and people are worried about how that's going to work. I have no performance concerns about Max Fried. He consistently pitches deep into games. He makes up for iffy strikeout rates with just volume. He's going to have plenty of win potential on the Yankees. And if you're worried about the injuries, well, the Yankees just gave him $200 million after going through what you have to assume was a pretty intense physical. So if they're willing to pay $200 million, I can pay the 103rd pick in my draft. That sounds fine.
And the 10th round, the last one that we will be talking about today, is a popular breakout outfielder, Dylan Cruz.
Yeah, and honestly, he's not as popular as he should be, I think. Because if you look at the underlying data that we typically look at, the stuff like the quality of contact, athleticism, plate discipline, he looks very similar to Wyatt Langford. Now, what Dylan Cruz doesn't have is that September that Wyatt Langford had that works as a proof of concept that, hey, this guy can be a superstar. So I get Wyatt Langford going ahead of him. There's like an 80 pick difference between these two guys, and the talent level probably isn't 80 picks different. So Dylan Cruz has tons of upside. He stole 12 bases in 31 games. He might be a 35, 40 stolen base guy, even if he doesn't hit all that well. If he does hit, we could be talking about him as a 2nd rounder next year.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.